Welcome back to Small Biz Matters. We are at Cosbo, the Small Business Summit here in the fabulous sunny today, Melbourne, which was good. Yesterday, not so sunny. Today, sunny. And it's great to be joined by Christine Pope, who has just explained to me she wears many hats, as many of us small business owners do. We have a small business. We're involved in local politics or local government, and we're very passionate about representing our business community through a professional association, which is exactly what you do and what hat you're wearing today. So tell us a little bit about the professional association that you represent here today, Christine.
Okay, so I'm with the Australian Traditional Medicine Society, which has an unfortunate acronym of ATMS. And sometimes we get feedback about ATMs that aren't working in the area. So, but 34 years ago when the association was set up, that wasn't really an issue. So, it's not always possible.
You've moved with the times.
We've moved with the times. Anyway, we represent about 10,000 small business people in natural medicine. So we're looking at everything from chiropractors, acupuncturists, naturopaths, massage therapists. Broadly, we kind of go with three main categories, which is ingestive. So that's people who give you something you take, whether it's herbs or vitamins or some supplements. Body work, so people who work literally on your body. And traditional Chinese medicine, which covers a range of things from specific Chinese massage to acupuncture, where they're using needles, except they all tell me to call it pins, so it's less scary.
It's all in the PR, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I know a lot of people are terrified of needles, but, the needles they use are so fine. Literally, you have to have something on the end to hold them. So it's not as scary as it may seem. And it's incredibly effective for pain and a range of other conditions.
You're very passionate, obviously, about the organisations and all the different businesses that you represent. Why is it so important that your organisation and other professional associations have a presence at this Cosbo Annual Summit?
Well, it's really hard for people in small business who are often wearing many hats, and I often say, look, meet my staff, left hand, right hand, they don't have the capacity to then take on other roles as well. So it's important that government knows who we are, and that if they need to consult with us about changes to our industry, that we're someone they can speak to, and we can then bring in the other people that they need to meet with to see that actually changes are made in a way that doesn't actually disrupt or damage our businesses, or without even thinking about the ramifications. So, for example, last year there was a change where natural therapies rebates were removed for a number of therapists, and anecdotally I've heard that between 10 to 40% reduction in revenue for some businesses. That's a huge impact. And look, we weren't really consulted on that change up front. And that's actually why we joined Cosbo, because we realised we really needed to be in front of government with an effective voice, and Cosbo could actually get us in to see people.
And that is really the key, isn't it? We all need to have, the bridge between the policymakers and the people on the ground. Professional associations are a great way to represent members like that, but then you still can't get into or in front of the policymakers. What sort of an effect did not being consulted have on the industry? You just mentioned a 10 or 15% reduction. That's huge across thousands.
Yeah, for most small businesses, that's actually a big shift. And I think also it was the perception. People are like, oh, if you're not covered by rebates, then somehow what you do is less credible.
Mm-hmm.
Now, look, personally, it hasn't had a big impact on my business. I'm in an area with a very educated population. And I've been in practice for quite a long time, so, not as long as I look, because it's kind of my second career, but let's say, more than 10 years. So people know who I am, and most people just come in and go, oh, well, so-and-so told me to see you. They said you'd sort me out, use whatever.
But a lot of businesses don't have that luxury because they're straight out of their educational field and they're moving into, well, like you said, they're moving into their second or third business.
Yeah.
And so this would have a huge impact.
It did, and I think where Cosbo was really invaluable is they told us how we should be working with government, so that we didn't just talk to the minister for the relative portfolio. We were also talking to small business ministers. We were talking to some of the crossbenchers. And, the outcome is we've actually got a review of this decision. So I know, it's great.
Congratulations.
The panel's going to be announced by the end of August, apparently, so I'm just waiting with bated breath.
Yeah.
And it's going to have some industry experts who actually understand our industry and the research that's available to support it. So that's a great outcome from what hasn't been a great decision to start with.
And that's fantastic illustration of how professional associations, when they come together, when they really represent their business members, how they can make a difference. Now, what has Cosbo given you today? What's the purpose of attending today's conference and being in the same room as these policy decision makers?
I think for me, it's always about understanding where they're going, like what's the drivers for them in terms of the changes they're making. So, today, there was a lot of discussion about basically, communication and making it easy for people to find information and that sort of thing. So I think one of is for the association that I represent to understand where government's going in terms of their direction, in terms of our industry, what sort of things we could expect to see changing so that we can actually get ahead of the curve and get ready for it.
And the thing is, if they're not consulting you, the experts, where on earth are they getting this information from to make these decisions?
Exactly. Unfortunately in my industry, it's usually ask a doctor.
Right.
And, doctors have really great education on diagnosis. They don't do a lot of time on complementary medicine.
Right, exactly. And also the holistic nature of natural medicine and the fact that you're looking at the whole instead of, I feel sick, I'm going to go to, and have this problem solved. Yeah. I think that's a really good distinction. And so have you found that the people that have been speaking today are reflective of what you had hoped the policy and decision makers were heading, or do you still think there's a big disconnect between what they think it is to run a small business and what it really is on the ground?
What I'm hearing in the room is, that they're trying to connect, and I think it's not always easy because one of the other pieces of feedback I'm getting is, we don't even know sometimes with that industry who we go and talk to because there's all these little businesses and we don't really have access. And I think I'm really appreciating the role the association has to play in being that intermediary for government. And look, in our industry, the other thing is there's 32 associations in natural medicine. Government does not have time to negotiate and deal with 32 associations. So we're also trying to work on some larger groups so that they've actually got one voice they can go to about, it may not be about all of what we do. It might be if there's one voice on naturopathy or one voice on Chinese medicine.
And you've really hit the nail on the head there. We almost, as small businesses, need to take a bit of responsibility and say, look, it's all very well for us to say the government isn't talking to us, but we're not making it that easy by having such a disparate nature of the associations that we belong to.
Yeah, exactly. And, look, there's a lot of historical reasons why we have that many associations. And in our industry, people are very passionate about what they do, and often they'll break out and form another association if the one they're part of doesn't support them. But I think you need to look at the overarching, what is your association doing for you? And our ATMS has a great continuing professional education program. We're really heavily involved in the lobbying and advocacy. We're doing a lot to support members. But actually what came out of today was some really good tips on resources we could collate for members so that when they're going to set up their business, they know, okay, that's where the awards are at. That's where I need to be looking at things from Fair Work Australia, And that's actually something I think we can take away from today and do a bit better.
So we've got an educational piece, we've got in the room with policymakers, we've got the opportunity to network with other professional associations. Sounds to me like Cosbo is a pretty good one-stop shop for professional associations to attend.
It is, and as I say, with my other hat on as a recently appointed Cosbo director, the other directors are invaluable in terms of if you're hitting issues, there's someone who has had the same experience and you can talk to. So that's really helpful too.
I think that's a good takeaway from today's interview with Christine Pope is all about what can you do, what should you be asking your professional association to do for you and how to look for the right one that fits your needs and what to expect from them. Because as you said, there's a myriad of options out there. You just want to make sure that you're joining the right place and making sure that you're getting back what you need from your membership.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and congratulations for assisting your many members in what I imagine is a volunteer capacity and looking after the people that you're so passionate about. Thank you for joining us here on Small Biz Matters, Christine Pope.
Thanks, Alexi.